It's a new year and I have some breaking news straight from the front lines of the war on you, your freedom and the natural intact male body, and how many people still out there across this country not only don't care about what happened to you, but they don't give a second thought about the harm that was inflicted on you. And it continues every day with the genital mutilation of newborns. I'm going to explain to you how that centers around power and control. We have so much to cover. I'm going to tell you about a breakthrough in the Tar Heel state of North Carolina, where circumcision is being scaled back. And we're going to talk about what's happening in New Hampshire, where HB 94, or the bill to stop public funding for infant circumcision, was reintroduced. Then in Mississippi, we're very concerned about a bill, HB 865, which just popped up on our legislative radar, which proposes to establish public funding for infant circumcision. And I'll get into what timely intervention the Health Equality Campaign is taking in that state. Of course, as I said before, ENTIC stands for Elective Non-Therapeutic Infant Circumcision, which is just a fancy way of saying it doesn't do anything and you don't need it. Non-therapeutic means it's not treating any disease or condition, and elective means it's not an emergency. All of this information I'll be speaking about is breaking and only available on this channel, so it might not be a bad idea to subscribe, so you get notified when news like this happens, because this is the only place where you can hear about it directly from me. But I want to talk about power and control. When it comes to your body, whether you can keep with nature, your genetic heritage gifted to you, don't fool yourself. It's not about science, health, or religion, as those that promote circumcision want you to believe. It's about power and control, and that's the talking point for this video. Cutting off men's genitals is a practice that goes back to ancient Egypt, where victorious armies would mark war prisoners and slaves. They started by cutting off the entire penis of dead or captive enemies as trophies. But then what good was a slave if he bled to death? So then they changed it to just the foreskin. Fast forward to the turn of the 19th century, where snake oil salesmen like Kellogg and others of his ilk, during the Comstock era, they promoted circumcision to enforce morality and curb masturbation. American racists also imposed it on African American men, as they claimed it would prevent the rape of white women. But it's always about one group of people imposing control over the individual. They want to let you know you're not in control, not even of your own body. But after a while, the moralists realized getting adult men to voluntarily have their genitals surgically altered to dent their sex lives wasn't going to happen. So they targeted the children and their parents, because children couldn't object and new parents could be manipulated.
Why not let parents let their children make the choice?
There are very good reasons why infancy is the best time. Simple, quick, easy, convenient, and so forth. Once you leave it till later, the barriers start rising. If it's an adolescent boy or a man he's got to make the decision, go through the psychological trauma of saying yes, no, yes, no. You don't case of circumcision until a person can make up their own mind. It's crazy stuff.
Don't let them make up their own mind. If one is a circumcision promoter like this creep, of course it would be crazy to allow you to make up your own mind, because you wouldn't do it. Back to the issue of power and control. By dominating others, these people may feel a sense of superiority or importance to boost their own self-esteem. And maybe they believe they're earning points in heaven for saving mankind from itself. And they see it as a threat to themselves, their ego, and they're happy ever after if others don't partake. Then when it comes to medical experts and doctors, they can get caught up in what's called the God complex, which is narcissistic behavior characterized by an exaggerated sense of self-importance, attention craving, lack of empathy, and arrogance. They want you to do as you're told and not question their judgment, and they will dismiss you with a call to their authority.
The question is, do I have a God complex? I have an MD from Harvard. I am board certified, and I have been awarded citations from 7 different medical boards in New England. So I ask you, when someone goes into that chapel and they fall on their knees and they pray to God that their wife doesn't miscarry, or that their daughter doesn't bleed to death, who do you think they're praying to? But if you're looking for God, you ask me if I have a God complex? Let me tell you something. I am God.
However, we need to understand that just because someone is eminently qualified in medical science, that doesn't mean they have a monopoly on common sense, ethics, and a concern for your rights and bodily autonomy. They can be driven by profit motives because they believe they're entitled to it, or that they need that revenue and the ends justifies the means. In fact, someone with a God complex can have their own agenda which may not be in your own best interest. The bureaucrats in government and medical groups that influence public policy and then inflict it on us are certainly susceptible to this behavior as well. Key to that is manipulating parents with contorted reasoning to ensure baby boys end up with being deprived of their natural body, and that is part of their power play. They want to play God with your body, and they want to deprive you of your freedom. And they'll use the institution of health care and the issue of parental rights as a subterfuge to hide their tactics. In the case of some women, the ones that are so sensitive to body shaming or toxic masculinity, they have no issues talking about men like this.
You dirty, uncircumcised freak.
Or how about this?
I mean, I'm just happy he's circumcised.
What if I get somebody who's not circumcised?
Run out of the room screaming. It's like finding a gun in the street. Just scream and get out of there.
I think for some it's the only chance they get to control a man's body because at that moment he's defenseless and they know they can affect him for life. Could it be some are seeking to get even for past or imagined abuses by men? Or maybe it's their chance to change males for the benefit of their sexual preferences.
Did you hear the new phenomenon that's going on about uncircumcised parents, that they're letting their children decide, the boys decide if they want to get circumcised? It's like, okay, it shouldn't be up to the boy. It should be up to the girl.
Again, circumcision is always about exerting power and control over others. Coincidentally, the bill sponsored in Mississippi and previously in Maine to increase the rates of male genital cutting by giving hospitals more money for it, those just happen to be sponsored by women. But in the end, the reasons don't matter. They wanted you cut. They're blinded by confirmation bias, meaning they use any reason to justify the conclusion. They twist logic until it's more warped than space-time around a black hole, and they'll enact laws and policies to keep circumcisions happening, to keep the money flowing to hospitals, and to manipulate parents to keep their children on the circumcision conveyor belt. They've convinced parents so well, lied to them, that many parents will go to their grave believing they did the right thing. How they made your life better by cutting your genitals, or maybe kept you from being cursed by God for having a natural intact foreskin. This is how this is perpetuated in America, generation after generation. The other thing to remember about the power and control game is that people in power can never admit they made a mistake.
The Iraqi regime continues to possess and conceal some of the most lethal weapons ever devised.
There is no doubt that Saddam Hussein now has weapons of mass destruction.
They can't have the public questioning their judgment. That would make it difficult for them to manipulate people on future issues.
The NIH has not ever and does not now fund gain-of-function research in the Wuhan Institute.
So the lies never stop. So with that said, let's switch gears and jump into what's going on in the 3 states I mentioned. I just wanted to mention, Intaction was featured in the current issue of the New Yorker magazine, a very prestigious publication. And they interviewed us about something that's big, bold, and beautiful. And I'm talking about foreskin, the 4 powers of foreskin: pleasure, protection, lubrication, and connection. So you might want to check that story out. Our foreskin positive public advocacy continues to connect with people as it was designed to do. And by doing that, we make the subject fun and approachable. And while journalist Diego Lasarte wrote about the board members of Intaction, I want you to know, you're part of the story. Your voice is being heard in between the lines. All of us that are part of Intaction. So the story is much more than just David, Craig, and myself. When David Grant said, "Imagine being put through the pain just a few days after being born. This is your welcome into this world, being sliced up." He's talking about the circumcision harm that all of us have endured and detest so much. And together we're waking America up to it. It's about you. You can find the link for the New Yorker article below. You can learn more about our Foreskin Positive strategy by watching my presentation at the 15th International Symposium on Genital Autonomy and Children's Rights. Link below. I want to take a moment to say, if you care about this issue, I need you to support me by becoming a member of Intaction. It's just $25. And when I talk to legislators, I want to be able to say we represent thousands of real bona fide people across the country on this single issue, and not just social media followers. We're in the hundreds, but I need thousands. Just go to our website at intaction.org and click on Join on the menu bar. And it's tax deductible. I do all of this so you guys finally get heard on this issue, but I need you to help me too. I'm an unpaid volunteer and a donor myself. I appreciate the support you can give us. Okay, let's get started in New Hampshire, where things are heated up on the second attempt to pass a bill that would stop public money for entic circumcision while still allowing it for bona fide medically necessary situations. In November 2024, New Hampshire Representative Julia Soti introduced the bill, which was substantially similar to our bill from the previous session. That bill from 2024 was ultimately, but unfortunately, narrowly defeated in the House by just 4 votes. In the 2025 version, it has 8 bipartisan co-sponsors, one of which is Jason Osborne, the House Majority Leader. The bill is currently in the Committee on Health, Human Services, and the Elderly and awaiting a vote. Because I was in Concord the week before, I was one of the first to find out that the committee chairman had set the public hearing date with less than 4 business days' notice. So we really had to scramble to get people to the hearing to speak in support of our bill. Adrienne Soti, wife of Representative Julia Soti, was crucial in turning out support for the hearing. So I returned to Concord, accompanied by Intaction Director David Grant, to participate in the hearing before the Health Committee.
My name is Dr. Joseph Harder, and I'm a general surgery resident physician. I'm here today to speak in support of this bill.
My name is Anthony Lasquadro. I'm the director of the Health Quality Campaign, and I represent the growing chorus across America that advocate for higher standards for the bodily autonomy of children. And I urge your support for this bill.
I'm an expert in circumcision and the law. It violates the rights of the child to bodily integrity, self-determination, and privacy.
That you have performed a painful cosmetic procedure on them at their most vulnerable moment in life, saying, your parents told me to, as if you were forced to, and you bear no responsibility.
As of the making of this video, the bill is pending a vote by the committee, but we'll keep you posted as the situation develops. Now, getting to Mississippi, MISSISSIPPI, I really wasn't in the mood to start the year off by having to defend territory that was already ours. I really prefer to use our funds to break into new states. However, I received a notification, since we monitor all state legislation. I got a notification that a bill was posted in the Mississippi legislature to establish insurance coverage for entic circumcision under Medicaid. The bill, HB 865, was sponsored by Representative Dana Underwood McLean, and it's solely sponsored by her. As soon as I became aware of the bill, I jumped on it, and within 24 hours, I found a lobbyist in Mississippi to represent us in the legislature. That's how fast I work. We retained Southern Consulting Associates to work with us on trying to kill this bill. I did find out that the bill was proposed at the request of a woman obstetrician who bemoaned the fact that babies weren't being covered for this procedure, or the hospitals wanted more money. 2 women motivated to cut men's penises. What is it with these women obsessed with cutting men's penises? It's like Maine all over again. It's not every woman. Some are so empathetic and beautiful to us on this issue, but others definitely have a problem. You can contact her and let her know what you think about baby dick cutting. See the information below. One good thing about this bill is there's only one sponsor, so that tells me there isn't a lot of support. But we really don't know. These things can take on a life of their own, and they can get passed with very little fanfare, especially if no one is objecting or raising issues. So we can't even take a small chance of letting this get by. But this is why I'm constantly fundraising. These issues do and will come up, and we need the resources on hand to immediately jump in and intervene before we end up with more children in jeopardy. I'll be working on Mississippi with our lobbyists, and I'll keep you updated. In North Carolina, I have some great news. First off, for over 15 years, the state fee-for-service Medicaid plan did not cover infant circumcision, as per a law passed by the state legislature known as 1A-22. However, the private Medicaid insurance companies did cover it, even though the state wasn't reimbursing them for it. Well, our lobbyists there, Capital Advantage, spoke to the 4 managed Medicaid private insurance providers in the state, and they have all dropped non-therapeutic infant circumcision from their plans. That's WellCare, United Healthcare, Healthy Blue, and AmeriHealth. In the past, they were providing this extra coverage as a value-added benefit, but due to rising healthcare costs, they decided it was time to bring their coverage in line with 1A-22. Maybe they were going to do it anyway, maybe we helped push it along, but either way, it happened. This is a huge victory because most North Carolinians under Medicaid are covered under these managed Medicaid private plans. So now if parents are hell-bent on circumcision, they'll have to pay for it themselves. And many parents, when told that circumcision is not medically necessary and they have to pay out of pocket for it, they lose interest and they leave their son intact. Now, if you recall in 2021, the Medicaid director at the time inserted a loophole in 1A-22, which provides circumcision coverage under the guise of HIV prophylaxis for babies. This could potentially allow coverage for any reason and override the intent of 1A-22. All doctors have to do is code it as HIV prophylaxis and it would get paid. A ridiculous scam because babies aren't at risk for HIV and there's no evidence that circumcision alters the risk of HIV infection in Western countries. 2 large and recent studies have proven that. So we're setting up meetings with the new state Medicaid director to discuss this, which we previously also did in 2021, although unsuccessfully with the old director. Depending on the outcome of this new discussion, we have options. If they agree to delete the loophole, then we're done. If they refuse, we can initiate a petition for a rulemaking change, and there's 2 ways to do that. The first way is to directly petition HHS under Rule 150B, and the second is to petition the House Rules Review Committee to become involved. They have the power to cancel agency overreach, and they're very focused on squashing agency-adopted rules that exceed what the law allows. The legislature was very specific under what conditions circumcision would be covered under 1A-22, and I think they could find this loophole would be an overreach. This is why we need good lobbyists, and why I'm happy to pay them what they're worth. They have the knowledge of state law and legislative practices to intervene successfully on our behalf. So I'll keep you posted on this situation and the other 2 states as more develops. I will relentlessly focus on disrupting the guaranteed payments from insurance like Medicaid because that incentivizes hospitals to pressure parents to make a rushed proxy decision for a life-changing, unnecessary, and destructive procedure. Insurance coverage creates that conveyor belt children are placed on for this needless trauma. And in many states like Medicaid, coverage sets the standard for all health insurance coverage. It's not like we have an issue with public health care, it's just this one issue. The private insurance won't stop covering it until the public insurance stops covering it. Private insurers feel that they won't be competitive if a free Medicaid plan was covering something that their paid plan didn't. So the public insurance component is the key, and 17 states have already dropped it, so that's proof that this is an achievable goal. But now it's your turn. You have the power to make a choice between stopping circumcision or allowing it to continue. Become a member of Intaction, or support the Health Quality Campaign to support our lobbying efforts, or do both. Links below. Because you know your bodily autonomy rights have been thrown under the bus for decades and the system has been rigged against us. Here is your chance to stop it. Don't be one of those American men that meekly accept what was done to them and then pretend that's what they wanted, even though the decision was never theirs to make. Year after year, Intaction has established a proven track record of advocacy for the natural intact male body and male bodily autonomy. From public education to multi-state legislative lobbying, Intaction delivers results time and time again. You have the power to oppose this harm, and together we're putting the brakes on male genital mutilation couched as medicine. We've proven it in several states, and there'll be more to come. We can redirect the harm we've been forced to endure and channel that energy for a greater purpose by stopping this barbaric penis-cutting practice so you can heal yourself. Think of the children of tomorrow or the child you once were. Donate to the Health Quality Campaign. And until then, my friends, it's Foreskin for the win.